You take a lease on a commercial property. It's already worn, cracks in the walls, old flooring, signs of damage, and you think, I'll just give it back how I got it. But legally, that depends on what the lease says. And if the lease is not properly limited, you could be required to repair, redecorate, and return the property in a better condition than it was at the start. In commercial leases, tenants do not just pay rent, they take on the legal responsibility for the condition of the property. This is where many tenants get caught out, because the lease may not judge the property against the condition it was in when the tenant had moved in. It may judge the property against a standard required by the lease. That standard can apply to repair, decoration, and the condition in which the property must be handed back at the end of the term. To understand this properly, you'll need to understand three key obligations. Repair. Most commercial leases require the tenants to keep the property in good repair and condition. This is not just casual wording. Good repair generally means the property must be maintained to a proper standard considering its age, character, and use. Condition can go further and may cover the general state and appearance of the property, not just obvious disrepair. In practice, this could mean the tenant is not only responsible for damage caused during the lease, they may also be required to put the property into the required standard, even if it was not in that standard at the start. Decoration. Most leases also require the tenant to decorate during the term, and again at the end. This can include internal decoration, external decoration, and usually a requirement to use proper materials and workmanship. If this obligation is not limited, the tenant may have to redecorate even when the decoration was already poor when the lease began, yielding up. At the end of the lease, the tenant must give the property back in a condition required by the lease. This is known as yielding up. That usually means the property must be handed back in repair, properly decorated, cleared of the tenant's item, and with alterations dealt with as required. The key point is this: the standard you are judged against comes from the lease, unless the lease is limited by a schedule of condition. Let's take a simple example. A tenant takes a retail unit. At the start, the walls are cracked, the flooring is worn, the ceiling shows signs of damage, the decoration is already tired. The tenant does not make the condition worse, but the lease requires the property to be kept in a good repair and condition, decorated at the end of the term, and yielded up in accordance with the lease. At lease end, the landlord claims floor replacement, £18,000, wall repairs, £9,000, ceiling repairs, £6,000, full decoration, £7,000, being a total claim of £40,000. The tenant's argument is, it was already like that when I took it, but without a properly incorporated schedule of condition, that may not be enough. So this is where the schedule of condition becomes critical. It is one of the most effective ways for a tenant to limit liability under a lease. Not just repair liability, it can also limit decoration and yielding up obligations, but only if the lease wording is drafted properly. So what is a schedule of condition? A schedule of condition is a detailed record of the property condition at the start of the lease. It usually includes photographs, written descriptions, evidence of existing defects. Its purpose is to establish the starting condition of the property. But the schedule itself is not enough. It must be attached to the lease and clearly referred to in the relevant clauses. How it actually works. Without a schedule of condition, the tenant may have to comply with the full lease standard. This could mean putting the property into good repair and condition, redecorating, and yielding up in a better condition than it was received. With a schedule of condition, the lease can say the tenant is not required to put or keep the property in any better condition than shown in the schedule. And this can apply to repair, decoration, and yielding up obligations in the lease. So that changes the position significantly and improves the tenant position. So what makes a good schedule of condition? It should include full photographic record of the property covering all key areas. It should also include clear written description of defects, not vague comments. Specific details: if cracking, staining, worn flooring, poor decoration, damp, or damage already exists, it should be recorded clearly. If something is not recorded, it may be difficult to rely on later. In most cases, a professional surveyor should prepare it. That detail gives the document evidential value. Looking at a critical legal point, the most important is incorporation. The lease must clearly state that the tenant's obligations are limited by the schedule of condition. For example, the lease may say the tenant is not required to put or keep the property in any better state of repair, decoration, or condition than shown in the schedule of condition. That wording is much stronger than simply attaching photographs to the lease. If the schedule is not linked to the repair, decoration, and yielding up clauses, its protection may be limited. In practice, tenants should deal with this before the lease is completed. First, prepare a proper schedule of condition. Second, make sure it records repair issues, decorative condition, and the overall state of the property. Third, ensure the lease clearly limits the repair, decoration, and yielding up obligations by reference to that schedule. This is where the tenants can control risk before signing, because once the lease is completed, it is much harder to argue what was intended. I hope this video helped in understanding what schedule condition is and how it can benefit tenants. If you like this video, I'll be grateful if you please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.